What's good, y'all? In today's video, we continue our Hippopotamus defense series by covering a very nice game from my guy, Tim. Thank you, Tim, for sending in this game. I think a lot of players that go with the Hippo defense system are going to get something out of that. But before we get into this game, I do want to mention that this is World Hippo Day. Today, February 15th, 2025 is World Hippo Day. Because of that, I'm giving out a 30% off discount code for my Hippo course for those of you interested. If you are interested in that, go down in the description below. Go down to the pinned comment, plug in the discount code World Hippo Day, and you will receive 30% off on that course. Only good for the next 5 days until the end of the 20th. So if you're interested in that course, make sure to head over there. Thank you to the hundreds of you that have invested in it already. And if you haven't gotten it yet and you decide to purchase it, I do hope that you get a lot out of it. I'm a big fan of the Hippo, played it exclusively as white and black to reach the National Master title. And here, Tim, with the white pieces, plays this move of pawn to b3. Now, when I was starting out with my Hippo journey in tournament chess, I played this move b3. I remember I actually have it on the channel. There was a game against a 2100 something rated player where I played the move of pawn to b3. I eventually switched over to g3 because I liked prioritizing kingside development. But b3 is a very solid way to start out with the Hippo. There's multiple players that like that move of b3 going into the Hippo. So b3 with that Nimzowitsch-Larsen attack. Bishop b2, e3. This is all good so far from Tim. Here, Tim, though, plays the move g3. I don't know if I'd recommend this. What I really do recommend is playing d3 and knight d2 before g3. That way, f3 is covered the moment you push your pawn. Why does this matter? Well, in the game here, by the time d3 is played, we don't have a knight on d2. And this g3 pawn is already pushed. Black here could have played bishop g4. And of course, the engine here is like, oh, just play knight f3 and you're fine. But if you're a Hippo player, you probably want to put your knight on e2. And at this point, black could play bishop f3. Again, we are okay here according to the engine, but I don't like this at all. This isn't how I want to start my game. This bishop kind of slithering in, attacking my rook. My rook can't move now. It's just not super fun for the Hippo player. So what I recommend there, again, before you play g3, place the knight on d2. That way, when you do push that pawn and the bishop attacks you, you simply block with the knight, and f3 is covered. Bishop c5 is played here. Now we have knight to e2, knight d2. Now bishop g4 is played, but the knight on d2 is there, so this was played too late. This is not a threat. Tim nicely plays the move of h3. I mean, the bishop's got to go back to h5 or f5 there. Bishop g2 is what Tim went with, and now a5. This is what I call the breather moment in the Hippo. You got your 6 pawns on the 3rd or 6th rank, depending on what color you're playing with. You got your bishops being ketted. You got the knights tucked. Here is really when you think as a Hippo player for the first time in a lot of ways. Right? You get your setup, now you're like, okay, what do I do now? And let's just start out by acknowledging the fact that black here hasn't really taken full control of the center. Often we see e5 and d5 with the 2-pawn center, sometimes a 3 or a 4-pawn center, sometimes a 2-pawn center that's supported in some kind of way. But here, you only got 1 pawn in the center. So this helps our bishop on b2 feel very active, and at some point, f4 could be a good way to take some space. Of course, at this point in the game, f4 is not even on our radar. I talk about this in the course, but you're not going to push this flank pawn as long as there's a bishop looking at e3 there. Like, that's just not even going to be an option. So you can automatically eliminate that. One of my favorite ideas in the Hippo is to play b4 and knight b3, but of course here b4 doesn't work because the pawn on a5 is slowing that down. But g4 does work. And when it comes to pushing the g-pawn, whether you're playing white or black in the Hippo, it can be a little bit dicey, especially if you're not getting it with tempo, right? Because there are times where black can play h5 right away and start going after that pawn. It depends on the position. But in this case, I mean, look, if you want to save your bishop, you got to either sacrifice your knight, which isn't good for black, or you got to move your bishop. Now we play the move of knight g3, and black doesn't have time to play this without realizing that, well, they're just going to lose a pawn. They're just losing a pawn there. So here in the game, we have the move of pawn to b5. g5 here is played by Tim. And this move of g5 is solid, right? It's a solid move. White here does have an advantage. For those of you all that say the Hippo is timid, I don't get it, in all honesty. What white should have played here is pawn to h4. And this is a very interesting attacking idea that I do want to touch on. You know, keeping the tension, right? In my upcoming course on the modern Scandinavian defense, I talk about this quite a bit. Sometimes in chess, you want to keep the tension. You want to keep the tension. You want to keep threats going. And here's the issue at the end of the day with playing g5 right away. Black can run away with the knight, like to d7, like we saw in the game. h4 is played here. by Tim. But now black did have the opportunity, because we kicked that knight back and then played h4. Black has time to save that bishop by playing not h6, which is what happened in the game, but playing pawn to f6 or f5. Now the bishop can run out this way. If we try to kick that bishop, then it goes to e8. And if we go with en passant, I mean, the knight can capture back. So notice, by playing g5, that knight is able to go. And now when we threaten to try to trap that bishop, right, really go after that minor piece, f5 can be played. So instead of that, right, instead of immediately playing the move pawn to g5, what I recommend here is playing pawn to h4. Now think about it this way. We're threatening to trap this bishop, and in this case, the pawn is on g4, so the bishop can't even think about coming to f5 in the first place. And you don't have time as black to get this knight out. I mean, if you do move that knight, we just trap your bishop. So the only way that black can save this bishop is by playing h6 or h5. That's the only way, right? We didn't kick that knight yet, so the knight didn't have time to run away and push that f-pawn. You got to move the h-pawn here. If you play, for example, h5, we'll just capture it off. We're up a pawn. Open, you know, semi-open g-file against the king. We'll take that along with our bishop, which is fantastically placed. And if h6, now we can play the move of pawn to g5. Now we play g5, and we have a target on h6, and the knight is on f6. If black decides to, you know, play a move here like knight d7, we just capture on h6. We are breaking open this king side. The hippopotamus defense is not timid. This happens all the time in my games where I have, you know, somewhat, you know, closed, slow setup. And I get it. The first 10 moves, you're not going for tricks and traps. But then all of a sudden, we have that very quick g4, knight g3, h4, and black's in trouble. Black's in trouble. It's at that, once we played the pawn move to h4 there, it's nearly +2. It's right around +2 for white. In this case here, what can we do? We can play h5, kick the bishop back. Now we could throw in a check. If black decides to trade, we don't want to trade there. Play queen h3. Or we can also go with bishop takes d5. Pretty surprising move, right? I mean, black just takes it. We throw in a check, but here's the idea. If you block with the bishop, well, we just take it. If you block with the queen, since the pawn on e6 captured, oh, thank you for the knight. Thank you for the knight. And white here is over +3 in terms of eval. If you see a move like bishop takes e3, you don't have to take that. Even if you do, you're better. But this move, knight f3, is a nice one, attacking the queen, attacking the bishop. And this queen here, it's out in the open. It feels like there should be somewhere safe for it to go. But it's very hard for this queen to find a home. Nearly every square is attacked. And if you go to, let's say, f4, thinking that you're safe, we could just play rook to g1. And your king is getting attacked in a major way, right? Take the pawn. Take the pawn with the bishop. Take the knight. Do whatever you want here, because at the end of the day, I mean, this is a huge threat. Bringing the knight in, throwing in a check. Yeah, this is about to be game over. And by the way, if the bishop blocks, you are able to sacrifice that rook. Whole idea being, if capturing, you have queen g7 checkmate, and this game is now over. Okay, this game is over. So, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, guys, when we see this move of g5, there's a lot of ways that black can fall into trouble there. If they take, if they don't take, right? I mean, right now we're looking at just about over +2. H takes g5, we capture back. We capture back. If the knight wants to run, we can play queen to g4 now. If the knight wants to take, this is how I think about it, right? We know that we shouldn't trade down when we're attacking, but let's think about it in a different lens. This knight is a defensive piece for the king. If we're talking about defenders for the black king, I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if I'd count those, honestly. What attacking pieces do we have? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is this an attacking piece against the king? I don't think it is. This is a defender, though. Let's offer a trade. I have a non-attacking piece to get rid of one of your key defenders. Let's do it. If black wants to take, which is the engine move, we capture back with the bishop. We have queen h3 ideas. Really doubling up on that file there. Knight h5 ideas, going after the pawn on g7. I mean, such a rich attacking game for the white side coming out of the hippo here. And if black goes, hey, I'm going to take with the queen, we have this stunning move of rook takes h7. Oh my goodness, right? Rook takes h7. Beautiful move. I mean, look, if you want to take the rook, then your queen's just hanging. It's just hanging. And if you capture on g4, we throw in a check. The king moves. We check again. We check again. I mean, whether you block with the queen, you could even block with the bishop. Either case, we are going to capture off your queen at the very end of this. We are up a piece in material. The best thing black can do here is bishop g7 to get some defense for that king. Because if you capture on a3, how do we win this game in 4 moves? By playing king to e2, attacking chess, threatening a mate in 1. And black can prolong this. You can throw in a check. You can play bishop c1, but at some point that rook's going to come over, and yeah, that king is done. So with this move of pawn to b5, right, h4 is such a great option. Earlier I mentioned that it was nearly +2. Now that I'm looking at it, it actually looks like we're over +2 for white following the move h4. So that's a great attacking idea. Remember to keep the tension there. Keep the tension. Yeah, just see how black responds to that. But by playing g5, you are giving black that ability to escape with the bishop with the f pawn, which you don't want. You don't want that there. So play h4. But okay, g5 is played here in the game. After knight d7, we have h4 now, and black misses this f5 move, which we're still better there. And we have the move h6. Here, Tim continues by capturing off. Love this. You want to break that side of the board open. Why not? h5, another great move by Tim here. The bishop draws back, and here, there's a couple of moves here that I would say are good. Queen e2 is played. I think this is a little bit passive, a little bit slow. This king, you really got to attack it. You really got to go after it in some kind of way. Again, you can throw on a check and go to queen h3. And we have the same position we covered earlier, just a different move order. You could take on d5, and if black captures back, throw on a check, say thank you for the knight, and we're over +3 as white there. But okay, we have the move of queen e2. We're still better here. Knight e5 is played, and you know, I understand the logic behind this, at least at first sight. It's like, you know, the knight's trying to get in the way of the bishop, but here Tim finds that he can just play d4. Just go, hey, I'm gonna fork your knight and your bishop, and that's exactly what takes place here. Great move. The knight moves. All right, we capture the bishop. On top of being an attacking type of player right now, on top of attacking the king, we're up material. This is just good in all kinds of ways for white. Rook c1 is played. Great move by Tim. The bishop runs away. We now have queen takes b5. The knight runs to e5 again, and rook c3 is played. Now, when I first saw this, I was thinking that looks a little bit weird, but the engine really likes this move. Rook c3 is a solid idea, and at the end of the day, you want to be careful about this knight d3 check, right? And because our rook is here, we now have coverage on that spot, besides just the queen, because we're not going to take it with the queen as the bishop is defending it. Here you could play rook takes d3. If the bishop wants to take it, we'll take back. We just got 2 minor pieces for our rook. That's a great trade. And okay, sure, black could play c6, black could play rook b8, distracting our queen. But even if you take our rook, we have queen c3 there. And yeah, sure, we are threatening your bishop, but we're also threatening a mate in 1 in 2 different ways. Yeah, this is resignable for black. With rook c3, black instead goes, hey, I'm just going to play queen e7. We now have knight f3. I like this move, bringing pieces towards the king side of the board. I also like here that Tim didn't castle. A lot of times in the Hippo, guys, you don't need a castle. And a lot of openings you do. All right, for example, if you're playing the King's Gambit, if you're playing the Italian game, if you're playing the Sicilian, if you're playing openings in which case the center of the board opens up very quickly, you got to get your king to safety. But oftentimes in the Hippo, your king is very safe in the center, sometimes the safest in the center. And on top of that, by keeping your king in the center for a long time, your opponent doesn't know which way you're going to go. Obviously here we have a rook on c3, but generally speaking, if your opponent doesn't know if your king's going to be on g1 or c1 on the very next turn, it's kind of hard for them to figure out where they're going to attack. And if they attack that way, boom, we go the other way, and vice versa. Okay, so that's an idea that you can think about. Sometimes in the Hippo, we do castle pretty quickly if we know what kind of direction the game is going. But at the end of the day, the king is very safe here. There's no rush to castle it, especially when we have a rook on h1 blasting open that file. We don't want this rook on f1. Keep the rook here. In the game, we have this rook come over to b8. Queen e2, great move, get out of danger. The knight trades off. We see the move of bishop captures f3. Black takes the pawn. We're still at material here. Rook to g1, right? This is the time where it's like, hey, the rook did its job. The rook helped break open the king side. Now it's like, hey, let's get this rook over to g1. I like that move, eyeing the king. If you go to h8, the bishop's going to eye you. So anywhere that rook moves is check, including capturing off the knight. So we have the move king f8, getting out of dodge. Now queen d1. Beautiful move from Tim. Best move in the position. The whole idea being if, rook d8 is played, queen d4, another engine move, the top option. We are threatening a mate in one. We're threatening a mate in one. And on top of that, we're doubling up on your knight. Black throws in a check. We calmly capture back. Black takes again on d3. And Tim finishes off this very nice game that he played with queen to h8. Now, sure, Tim earlier in the game missed this idea of playing h4 and then g5 instead of g5 first, allowing that f5 push. But overall, Tim played a great attacking game there. Let me know what you thought of it down below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Remember, for those of you interested in my over 6-hour course on the Hippo, all you got to do, plug in the discount code WORLDHIPPODAY, and you'll get 30% off, only good for the next 5 days. See y'all soon. I wanted to finish this video out by saying thank you to Walter, Rob, Steve, Rob, and Ray for helping make this February 2025 video possible, as well as the rest of my Patreon community. I appreciate you guys a ton. And if you haven't thought about becoming a patron before, there's some exclusive benefits that you gain by doing so, and I look forward to seeing you over there on the platform. Peace.